Email marketing is dead. Well, that's the common response I get from a lot of small business owners that I speak to. But nothing could be further from the truth. Just ask today's guest, Dan Faggella, who recently sold his business for 7 figures. And in his own words, he says, email marketing was definitely my weapon of choice. Not only that, but he explains how he used Sports Illustrated magazine for his email marketing inspiration. Before we get stuck into episode 412 of the Small Business Big Marketing Show, the Marketing Gold is made absolutely, exclusively possible thanks to our friends at American Express. Now, I say exclusively because for the next 4 weeks, American Express have kindly taken all available advertising spots. God, love that. So do yourself and me a favour and check out their suite of business cards designed to meet the financial needs of small business owners just like you. To do that, all you need to do is Google Amex Business to find out more.
Well, I said, welcome to a small business marketing show, where successful small business owners share their souls to take your marketing straight to the lead. Now, here's your host, Mr. Timbo Reid.
And welcome back to the Small Business Big Marketing Show. I'm your host, Timbo Reid. You, so much more importantly, are a motivated business owner and you're ready to crank out some great marketing to build that beautiful business of yours into the empire it deserves to be. Big show today. Dan Faggella joins us to explain how some clever email marketing plays helped him sell his business for 7 figures. Big news, re the Australian Podcast Awards. 2 more lucky listeners are going to share what's working for them from a marketing perspective, and I am going to give them some prizes. I've got some more prizes added to the Monster Prize draw as well, which is kind of nice for everyone who enters. Australia's craziest baker and past guest Tom O'Toole updates us as he travels across Australia in a Model A Ford at 20 kilometres an hour, raising money for cancer research. Whew, I'm out of breath already. As per usual, team, there is marketing GOLD dripping from the ceiling over here at Small Business Big Marketing's HQ. So let's get stuck right in. Big thank you to everyone who listens to this show. That's you. And everyone who voted for this show in the Australian Podcast Awards, because insert drum roll. The Small Business Big Marketing Show is a finalist in not 1, but 2 categories, business and marketing and people's choice. I'm excited by both, but I have been shortlisted down to 10 podcasts out of 270 in the People's Choice Awards. So I'm pretty proud of that, and I really want to thank all of you who cast a vote. The Podcast Awards, the Australian Podcast Awards, are on May 5 in Melbourne at the Melba Spiegel Tent, an incredible venue. I'm the MC. Going to be awkward if and when I win. That's cool. We'll deal with it on the spot. And you can get your tickets over at AustralianPodcastAwards.com. Hopefully, I get to see you there. Speaking of fun, I reckon it's time to learn from some listeners and give away some prizes.
Come on down. It's Timbo's Monster Prize Draw.
I love this segment. I love hearing from you, the listener, who have implemented ideas from this show and are seeing great results from it. And that's the spirit of the Monster Prize Draw. Email me, send me a video, send me some audio, tell me what you've implemented from listening to this show, how it's impacted your business. Sorry, I just swatted a fly on my chest. How it's impacted your business. And you'll win a prize. If I read it out on the show, you can win 4 Pillars Rare Dry Gin, an Uncle Jack's watch, an Orbit key. I will choose the prize per winner, which is kind of fun, and they're all donated by past guests. Plus, American Express, as of this week, until further notice, adding a double pass, I should say, Amex lounge passes to their international lounge at Melbourne and Sydney airports, which is kind of exciting. So, who are the winners this week? Who are the motivated business owners? The first one is Taylor Billett. Taylor says, "Hey, Timbo." Hey, Taylor. "I am in the process of starting a business, so I haven't been able to implement ideas just yet. However, I do have a small business, big marketing notebook with a running list of gold that I intend implementing right away. I'll be opening," it's a good idea having that notebook. "I have got a notebook in production, a branded small business, big marketing notebook. I gave some out. I gave one each to my Deep Dive Mastermind members, and depending on how they go, they're an internet-connected notebook, kind of fancy. Depending on how they go, I might roll them out and have a bit of merch that you can buy." Back to Taylor. "I'll be opening up a fitness facility in May. One thing most gym owners don't do is show appreciation for their members. I would argue that most small businesses and large businesses don't do that. Or we could do more of it. So I'll be sending random gifts every so often just so they know we're always thinking about them." That's a great idea. "I may even use a Sharpie texter on some hotel stationery." That's an idea from the Steve Sims referral marketing episode. Nice work, Taylor. "Love your show. It's been very helpful and eye-opening," probably ear-opening, "to listen to all of the strategies successful business owners have implemented. Thanks so much, Timbo." Taylor Billett. Hey, thank you, Taylor. Hey, buddy, fix your email signature. No contact details whatsoever. You know, that drives me crazy. Now, you could at least have a landing page. Even if your website's not, your business is not open, it doesn't open for another month or two, put a landing page up and collect people's contact details, email address, phone number, so you can let them know when the business does open. Taylor, your prize, beyond that advice, is a Bunster hot sauce pack worth $83. It's amazing. And 2 tickets to the Amex Lounge at Melbourne that you can use at Melbourne or Sydney international airports, valued at $66. How easy is that? Guys, all you need to do is email me your ideas that you've been implementing. tim@timreid.com.au. Second winner this week. Oh, and past guest. Hey, is that allowed? Yeah, that's allowed. That's great that a past guest is entering the Monster Prize draw. It's Ben Newsom from physicseducation.com.au. "G'day, Timbo," he says. "The most recent marketing idea that's helped physics education out was the commencement of the Physics Ed podcast." Ah, yes. That old chestnut. I love it. "Since starting in May last year, we're 41 episodes in, and we're now beginning to get hit up for interviews. That's how it works. The medium is growing nicely, certainly is, and we're adding another short-form version in the next couple of weeks." That's interesting, Ben. I've thought of doing that. It just feels like it's doubling the workload for not twice the result. Like to know how you go with that. "Just like you said, Timbo, it was all about sticking with it for at least 6 months, and now we're beginning to see real returns." Yeah, if you're going to embark on this helpful marketing journey, give it 6 months. Don't look at the scoreboard. Just create helpful marketing. "All the best, Timbo," says Ben. "Loving your work as always." Thank you, Ben. Well done, mate. I love your enthusiasm and respect for marketing. Always have, and I'm sure I always will. Your prize, Ben, 2 Amex Lounge passes, valued at $66, that you can use at Melbourne or Sydney International Airport, and a 6-pack of Mr. Lee's noodles, valued at $30, thanks to past guest Damien Lee. That is the Small Business Big Marketing Monster Prize draw for another week. Email me, tim@timreid.com.au. Let me know what you've implemented. If I read it out on the show, you win. I love giving away prizes. Now, coming up after my interview with email marketing expert Dan Faggella, we'll catch up with Australia's craziest baker as he makes his way across Australia raising money for cancer research. Plus, you and I will be meeting some amazing business owners and marketers over the coming weeks, including Sarah and Claire, 2 young millennials who've created a number of businesses out of their combined 1.6 million Instagram followers. But right now, let's meet Dan Faggella. Dan first appeared way back on this show in episode 160 when he was a martial arts champion, well, he still is a martial arts champion, who'd sold his gym to focus on building an online training business for up-and-coming martial artists. Well, he built that business to the point where it was generating $2 million in sales annually. And then he recently sold it for 7 figures, attributing a large part of that successful sale to his email marketing prowess. Now, I reckon you are going to love this chat with Dan because email marketing is not dead, as Dan will prove. We cover the 3 rules of writing an autoresponder email series, the 3 ingredients of any automated email campaign, how to borrow winning email marketing from the biggest players in your industry. That's a great tip that he goes into some detail on. How to write a weekly newsletter that gets you sales, and how to get into the habit of writing weekly emails even if you're not a writer. Hey, we're going to cover a lot of ground. I started off by asking Dan how he spent the big wad of cash he got from the sale of his business.
I put it in an account for a business called Tech Emergence, and I moved to Silicon Valley to work on artificial intelligence. So my lifestyle stayed pretty darn ascetic, but my company doesn't have to give away equity to rich people because I was able to fund it myself and get into AI without any help. So yeah, that was the spin. Not as glamorous as it could be, Tim, but to me, I mean, man, that's what I wanted to do, and I'm happy to do it.
I was kind of hoping you'd say, oh, it's funny you should ask. I'm actually on a hammock in the Bahamas as we speak. But
I have an umbrella drink in my right hand right now.
With a plastic monkey. So you have just gone on to you've put the dough into the next big thing. What did it feel like, just out of interest, when you did sell and you looked in the bank and there is, there's a large amount of money.
A second comma was a big change because I was definitely pretty close to broke starting my first 2 businesses. So to really get to start my third with actually, more in there was great. Tim, to be frank with you, when I talked to you, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, Science of Skill was only doing maybe, I don't even know back then, maybe 30, 40 grand a month or something.
It was pretty new.
Yeah, it was pretty new. And I wanted to sell it kind of right then. I mean, my goal was to sell it for, a couple $100,000 and be able to move right into artificial intelligence. So those 3 years, splitting half my time speaking and writing about AI and machine learning and ethics, and then spending the other half selling things on the internet was actually really painful because it was like I wanted to break free and move on to my bigger dreams in life and kind of the ethical consequences of AI. But the upside, Tim, was all that kind of pain and teeth gritting and hand wringing. If it didn't take so darn long to sell, because banks, in order for a bank to give you a big down payment, they would need to see a certain number of tax returns, and I didn't know that when I went about. The good thing was we wouldn't have got it into the Inc. 5000. We wouldn't have gotten it to multiple millions in the top line. We wouldn't have been able to get a 7-figure exit without all that, grit and grime. So, it was mixed feelings, Tim, but on the whole, I was happy as heck to kind of do what I want to do with my life and be able to do it on my own terms and with my own fun. So, I mean, it was a relief in a big way. Yeah.
So I want to explore the marketing initiatives, and many of them. I love the list that we're going to go through that got you to the point where you could sell Science of Skill for over $1 million. But let's just revisit Science of Skill. It was an online business. You sold it for $1 million last year. Describe the business for us, just briefly.
Totally. Yep. Real quick. So, Science of Skill was in the business of selling self-defense and self-protection video training, Tim. That's basically what we sold. And now we also sold some physical gear like self-defense knives and some kind of multi-tools and, some physical DVDs and things like that. Mm-hmm. But primarily it was digital training sold as a subscription on the internet. So basically a learning curriculum for martial arts and self-defense sold on the internet.
When you say subscription, I'm looking at Science of Skill, there were one-off purchases. You could buy a course for $9.95. Or was it all subscription-based?
Yeah. Well, actually, a lot of Science of Skill, especially over the course of the last year since I sold the company, has been moved towards more of an online e-commerce
they've changed it.
Yep. But however, I will tell you this. If you go ahead, so I'm on their website now, which is far different than it was when I was there. If you scroll to the bottom of the site and you click on Become a Member at scienceofskill.com, on the right-hand side, you're going to see Science of Skill Academy for $57 a month. You're also going to see the Buyers Club for $37 a year. Both of those were the subscription options that we had even when I was running the company. So these are two different subscription offers that when I was running the business composed somewhere around 75% of our monthly revenue. Now I think it's closer to 60% because they've started selling a lot more variety of hard physical products. But you can still find the old subscription right there on the site.
What's with the name Science of Skill? I never got it.
So you're asking a great question. So Science of Skill began, Tim, as a blog that I was using to write about the science of skill. Now you ask, what the heck is that, Dan?
Yeah.
Well, Tim, I went to Ivy League graduate school at the University of Pennsylvania, and I paid for graduate school by teaching people to choke other people, otherwise known as running a mixed martial arts academy. And so I was running an MMA gym, and I was driving up and down the East Coast going to Philly for graduate school at UPenn. And my graduate thesis and sort of my focus in the cognitive sciences as a grad student was in the science of skill acquisition. So what are the training regimens, the teaching regimens, the sort of psychological processes, the sort of neural basis of learning, of becoming good at a skill, whether that's memorization, music, sport, and how do I apply that to combat sports? And that was essentially my focus for graduate school. And when I was going through grad school, I was doing a lot of writing about these topics. I was experimenting with myself. And I was treating myself like a guinea pig, Tim. I was saying, okay, can I train in these different ways, and can I go off and win some tournaments? And I ended up winning a pretty big national tournament here in the United States in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I built a bit of a following being the skill science guy. And then as it turns out, we expanded that to a whole bunch of other instructors other than me.
So this is interesting. So Science of Skill, essentially, like a lot of online businesses, started as a blog where the owner's sharing their thoughts. In fact, I had a lady on a few months ago, Nourished Life, Irene Falcone, who started blogging about the toxins in makeup. People started to react in shock and awe, and in the end said, "Oh, Irene, can you start selling us stuff because we love what you said, what you have to say." So similar. Do you know Science of Skill, selling self-defense training and products, boy, oh boy, talk about a business right for its time right now. Sadly, very sadly, you've got your president suggesting that all teachers be armed, and, it's a topic that it's going to be on people's lips. Very sad, I guess, but do you regret selling?
No, not at all. I mean, for me, I needed to sell the business. So Science of Skill was started, Tim, over close to 5 years ago. So more than 5 years ago, I came to the conclusion that sort of the purpose of my existence would be to sort of focus on the bigger picture ethical consequences of sort of neurotech and AI and what that's going to sort of do to the species. The thing is, Tim, to get into that field and to sort of influence in that field would require having some money, right? And so in order to build a media platform, in order to kind of be able to really kind of put a stamp on the domain of AI, I would have to have some funding. And there were
so it's really interesting. Like Science of Skill was very much, and you had the foresight those years ago before you started or when you started to go, you know what? This ain't what I'm going to be doing for very long, but it's my key.
Not at all.
This business idea is my key to financing what I truly want to do, which is incredibly intelligent, Dan, and very full of foresight for a young fellow like you, but also very patient. Because in a world where we want everything now, you were happy to sit back, and it's paid off. You made $1 million, but you were happy to sit back and wait for that to happen.
Yeah, I wasn't that patient, Tim. I've been working 80 hours a week for forever. And so I was just splitting that time between two businesses instead of pouring all 80 into one. It was very much like pulling teeth because I thought I was going to sell it in about a year and a half or so. And it took me, 4.5 years. So it was a little bit of pain in there. But, it was built to be a sacrificial lamb. And as it turns out, Tim, instead of getting, $300,000 or whatever I thought I was going to sell it for, we were able to get 90% cash down and closed it out for a little bit over $1 million. So it had the upside as well. And you're right, there was a bit of patience there. And for me, Tim, that's all about control. If you got to move out to venture land and have somebody else own 33% of your thing, off the bat, you kind of have a new parent, right? You got a new parent. And to be honest, Tim, I kind of rather be my own boss and chart my course. And if I need investors, I need them. But otherwise, I got
fair
my
enough.
own dough, man.
What did you put in place, Dan, at the very start, knowing that you were going to sell this business?
Yeah, well, I put in place really tight bookkeeping and accounting. So one of the things off the bat was really making sure, can we track our marketing metrics and how the marketing ties to money? And can we track our QuickBooks and sort of our various categories and subcategories within the way that we do accounting and bookkeeping in such a way that it really accurately reflects month over month what's happening in the business? Because I'd known from selling my first company when I was 25 that the best thing you can do for yourself is have amazingly clean books and be able to talk very openly and freely about the clarity of your data. How did these marketing metrics, how did these business metrics that you have in this big spreadsheet you've been tracking over the years, match directly to sort of your profit margin month over month? And so one of the things I did, Tim, is I said, I'm going to have some of the best, clean metrics in the world. So when any buyer opens up the books, they're going to basically see like paradise in terms of clarity. And I know I'm going to need that to make a sale. So that was one thing.
The main thing. How did you avoid? How do you avoid then key person dependency? Because a business like Science of Skill, it was your blog, they were your opinions, you were the star behind it.
Oh, Tim, this is you're bringing up a great point. So everybody wants to know this, and this is awesome. I've done whole interviews on this topic, but basically, you do want to avoid that. You're bringing up the fact that you're even aware of that is awesome, because a lot of people think, oh, I can build something up around my name and then all of a sudden I can sell it. No. You can't do that. That's not going to be something that you can do. So what I had to do, Tim, was initially the reason that I was the guy who was in the videos that I was selling, the reason I was the guy whose name was on the blogs and in the emails was because it was really just me, right? So, I didn't really have a choice. But as we grew, Tim, I had a marketing guy, I had, a content guy, and I started actually paying other instructors around the world to film courses. So it was actually a phasic kind of approach, Tim. So starting about 1 year into the company, when we were making maybe $40,000 a month, I started gradually introducing new instructors and also new people writing blog posts and new people sending out new author names on the emails, right? I hadn't been writing them all for that long. But
so it very quickly became non-Dan centric. And the idea is to bring in other people, other content creators, other trainers, and products too that, don't rely on a person at all.
You are totally right. So basically, here's the way you do this. If you are a person and the brand depends on you, here's what you ask yourself. You say, what is the key value proposition that I bring to the table that people love? And now for me, Tim, the answer was pretty simple. I do really in-depth analyses of the best training methods for self-protection. And in my case, it was more the grappling side of things. And so I said, okay, can I broaden that value proposition to an entire website of different instructors and different products that don't even involve me anymore?
Yeah,
can I keep the same value prop, the same promise to my readers, Tim, but no more Dan Faggella? And you know what? We did it.
Love that. I love it. Dan, is it still possible to start a business like this these days? We see a lot of, these online publishing, training businesses, these sort of niche, in niche areas. Is it still possible to do?
Oh, man. Yeah, it's ridiculously possible. So if you go on, if you Google like Dan Faggella Forbes, you'll see the pieces that they've done on Science of Skill, but you'll also see a piece that they did about Timothy Reis. So actually, your name is Tim Reid. His name is Tim Reis, R-E-I-S-S. Tim was my right-hand man at Science of Skill. Tim and I went through the hard stuff, man. He slept on my floor for like 5 nights a week for like years at a time, and really put in blood, sweat, and tears. And he was the only person I've ever had up until this point in my life who had like a real ownership stake in or a real profit share in terms of the success of the company. He, about 1 year after, so he stayed with Science of Skill a little bit after I sold it. But he's since left, and he's already making over $100,000 a month doing the same exact thing as Science of Skill, just in fitness. So he did the same thing. He took a value prop. He took different instructors. He took a subscription model, and he copied and pasted the business model, right? It's like, it's not rocket science. And he's already going to be doing, easily last year, a little bit over $1 million. And this year he might even beat out where Science of Skill was. And that was just, that's kind of like, he was just my, what do you call it? He was like my deputy, right?
He was your wingman. He was your
wingman. But now he's kind of like just taking the copy and paste, and I couldn't be more proud of him and happy with him. But yeah, to be honest, Tim, I mean, I'm not going to say, it's easier than ever, but by golly, I'm not going to say it's any harder than it was 5 years ago.
You could argue it's easier than ever because, again, I've interviewed a number of e-commerce success stories, and one thing they all say is, when we started, we were coding and creating bespoke e-commerce platforms. Now, with things like whether it be Shopify or Udemy or whatever it is, you've got these platforms that are drag and drop, plug and play.
Yep. I got to say, there is something to be said of that. I luckily, Tim, even when I started my first business, this is back in 2008 when I was like a 20-year-old kid who just needed to pay for school, and I decided to teach people to choke people instead of getting a job. Even then, WordPress and email automation tools were already pretty plug and playable, right? I didn't get started in 1998 where I was like writing the code in my basement. So it's been pretty easy for a while. And to be frank, Tim, it's just as darn easy now.
We're talking really to Dan Faggella. Dan, I'm going to call you an online business specialist. What would you call yourself?
Oh, man.
It's a hard one. I don't know what I call myself.
I have no idea.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I guess you could say an entrepreneur interested in artificial intelligence might be a good way to skin the cat.
You are about to take us through, and I'm excited by this, the marketing strategies and tactics you used in order to get Science of Skill to $1 million sale. But before we do that, Dan, I'm just interested to know why. Why? You are a very good teacher. Just listening to you speak, I've watched a couple of your YouTube videos. You have this innate ability, I think, to want to share knowledge. Why did you reach out to me again to say, hey, listen, I'm sold and this is what I did and I want to tell the world?
Yeah, well, I mean, two things, I guess. Well, first and foremost, I did a handful of interviews when Science of Skill first got started, and actually as kind of like a reminiscing after the sale, I listened to some of the old ones, and I thought to myself, like, what the heck was I doing 4 years ago, whatever, Mm-hmm. And when I listened back to them, I was like, oh, man, it'd be cool to reach back out and see if maybe an exit story could be fun for Tim. And I guess that was kind of the shtick, man. I mean, I'm definitely doing some interesting stuff that crosses over with marketing now in terms of what I'm doing for research that, might be fun for people to learn about. But for the most part, I mean, I had a bit of a nostalgia exercise with, you and a fellow by the name of the guy who runs Entrepreneur's Journey, who's
Yara Steric?
Yeah, Yarrow. And it was like, 2 or 3 episodes that like were kind of my early internet days, and I was just like, you know what? Maybe it'd be a fun tale. So that was
I think it's really interesting and good on you because, I mean, one of the things, this is about episode 400 and something. And, I have this conversation with myself as like, there are so many more business owners that I haven't spoken to versus what I have spoken to. So I'm going to keep reaching out to new ones. But then I go, wow, of the 400 plus business owners that I've interviewed, it would be interesting to go back and see where they're at because I know 2 or 3 of them are actually out of business. I know many of them are making now tens of millions of dollars and not millions. It's just like, the idea of going back, I think, is actually really interesting. So let's talk marketing and regards to Science of Skill. Now, you sought inspiration, Dan, from Sports Illustrated.
Yes.
I would have thought that when starting a business like Science of Skill, online training and e-commerce, you would just go to these internet marketers that are all making $10 million an hour and lying on a hammock.
Yeah.
Why did you go to Sports Illustrated? I know why I'd be going to Sports Illustrated for inspiration, and I'm guessing it's for a different reason to Dan's. Before we find out, here's a business tip thanks to our exclusive partner, American Express. Here's a money-making tip from American Express member and 4 Pillars Gin founder, Stu Gregor.
All right, for the life of me, don't understand why a business won't accept Amex, because what you're potentially doing is knocking back customers who want to spend money on your product or your brand or your service or whatever it is. And I frankly don't understand it. If someone wants to give me their Amex and buy 10 bottles of gin, I tell you what, I'll take their Amex, thanks very much. You're potentially also denying yourself a big chunk of corporate business as well. You know, because a lot of sales guys, a lot of guys, I know me in my own business, I use Amex, and if I ring to make a booking at a restaurant or a bar or something, I say, do you accept Amex? And they say no, I go somewhere else. So they don't even know the business they're missing out on. It beggars belief. And I often find myself having these rather awkward conversations at the with a shopkeeper or a bar owner or a restaurateur saying, why wouldn't you take it? I'll pay you the extra. I'll pay 1.5, the credit card service fee or whatever you want. Take my money.
It's Business 101, really. Make it easy for people to give you money. Speaking of money, the American Express Business Explorer credit card comes with 50,000 bonus points every year, a low interest rate, and 2 points on every dollar you spend. Not to mention a couple of tickets to the very swish Amex Lounge at Sydney International Airport. Search Amex Business to find out more. New American Express card members only. Terms and conditions apply. And now back to Dan Faggella, who was about to explain why and how he sought email marketing inspiration from Sports Illustrated magazine.
Well, I guess, when I first started, Tim, my question that I wanted to ask myself, I wanted to grow it as fast as I could. I wanted it to become something that was separate from me and that I could sell. And I said, who's making, who's essentially making revenue selling affinity/sports related information, basically? Like who's selling information on the internet and doing like $1 billion in terms of annual revenue? And, Sports Illustrated does do about $1 billion in annual revenue between advertising and between subscription sales. And I said, okay, these guys are selling subscription information about sports. I'm selling subscription information about self-defense. I'm going to look at all the best marketing pieces and the strategies and the basics that I think they're using, and I'm just going to use that as the skeleton of the first ideas I have instead of trying to reinvent the wheel.
Brilliant. Brilliant. I often say there's a lot we can learn from the big guys, some of it good, some of it bad. Either way, we're going to learn as small business owners. So you looked at the Sports Illustrated. Now, I've sought a lot of inspiration from Sports Illustrated, Dan, but probably the wrong inspiration, if you know you know what I mean there.
I'm there with you, pal. Yeah, I gotcha.
What did you just explain that pulling apart of how do you pull apart their business model? You didn't get access to their boardroom.
No. Instead, what I did is I signed up for their email newsletter, and I sort of like subscribed to all the little side things that I could. So like I think they had like a survey, or this is like 5 years ago. But they had some kind of survey thing that I filled out. So they had all kinds of marketing data about me, and then I just let them pitch me stuff, and I would figure out what's going on. And one of the critical things that I learned, Tim, and this is a lesson that this is a lesson I've harped on forever, but the biggest initial lesson that I learned, Tim, was that Science of Skill sells the same subscription to everybody. However, they usually sell it to different people in different ways. Let me articulate to you what I mean, Tim. So this was a critical, pivotal idea from Sports Illustrated, and this actually was maybe one of the most important ideas in terms of scaling Science of Skill, period. Like very, very big deal, was that if you are a fan of, let's say, I don't follow sports, by the way, Tim, so I was the wrong guy to subscribe to Sports Illustrated. Yeah. I don't follow sports at all. But, if you are in New England and you root for the Patriots, which is a United States American football team, or you root for the Panthers, or you root for the Eagles or whatever, like if they win some kind of special playoff game or something like that, then Sports Illustrated might come out with a commemorative like plaque or something of all the different like playoff victories that they had that like featured the score, and it'll like commemorate the year. So looking at all the victories that they had in the playoffs throughout that year, they might come out with a little plaque, and you can buy that plaque for $40 or maybe even just $29.99, and with it you'll get 1 month free or 3 months free of Sports Illustrated. So you can get the magazine, you can get digital access. If you don't like it, you cancel, but if you like it, you keep it. And so Sports Illustrated would come up with all kinds of different varieties. They'd find people that like apparel, and they would sell the subscription along with a hat. Sometimes they'd even give you the hat just for shipping, right? Pay us $9.95, we'll send you the hat. You'll get the magazine 2 months later, or you'll get the magazine free for 2 months, and then if you want it for the third month, you can keep paying. And so they'd find apparel, they'd find affinity gear, they'd find all kinds of commemorative products, really well tailored to different teams, to different kinds of preferences, but it would all be selling the same subscription. And I thought to myself, man, that's a good idea. I bet you there's people that are interested in firearms training. There's people interested in knife defense. There's people interested in hand-to-hand, but they all want to learn the basics. I'll just need to kind of create unique bundles and unique offerings that are going to appeal to different people, but give them all access to the core curriculum that I took a long time to build and that I believe in.
So I'm going to just understand that for the greater small business community listening, who some are bricks and mortar business owners, some are e-commerce owners, whatever it is. So what the understanding is there, the big learning is that Sports Illustrated have a core offering, of which is a very mass offering, and many people are interested in it as a sports magazine and publication, right? In order to get people to that core offering, you've gone, in this case, they've gone and identified little niches, little groups of people, Patriot followers, Winter Olympic followers, and developed little offerings specific to their passion.
Yes.
Offered it to them. I'm going to guess probably at cost or without trying to make any big profit, but getting them into the funnel so that they then can sell their core offering, which is their ongoing subscription. Have I got it?
100%, yeah. And in fact, a lot of the time, Tim, they are bundling their subscription with the front end product.
So it's not a two-step process. It's like, here's your Patriots snow dome. I don't know why I thought of that.
Exactly.
And you've got your subscription at the same time. Welcome.
No doubt about it. Yeah. So you get the gear and then you get the magazine at the same time. And then the next month you get the magazine and there's some letter in it. And you already know this because you paid for the thing. It says like, hey, this is your last free edition. If you no longer want to be a Sports Illustrated member or whatever. So sometimes they would do that. They would also, Tim, don't get me wrong, they would also come up with other kinds of product offerings that would just be a first purchase. And then, like you said, they would follow up to try to sell you the subscription later on. But a lot of the time they would bundle it, but they would bundle it specific to individual tailored needs, which I thought seemed like kind of a smart idea. And so that was one of the first ideas I ran with. And it was what got us to $40,000 a month, which was enough to run it full time and keep going.
It feels very complicated, the idea that, because, okay, for Sports Illustrated, they're a big company with lots of resources, and the idea of niche targeting and niche marketing is, hey, it's what they do. They've got departments for that kind of stuff. You didn't, but yet you have this core offering of self-defense training, but then you're going off and identifying these little it just feels very labor-intensive, Dan.
Well, I'll tell you how I did it, Tim. So none of this stuff is really rocket science. And basically what I did is I said, all right, well, what are the main important interests and drivers that bring people to my website, that bring people to my articles, that bring people to my videos on the internet? And so I asked that question to myself, and I thought a better idea would be, why don't I go ask that to my readers and my listeners? So I did two things. Number one, I sent out a bunch of surveys via email. I think everybody that didn't reply to it the first time, I waited about 11 days. I sent it again, and then I waited another 11 days and sent it again. Different subject line, kind of different angle, but it was still the same survey. So I tried to get the maximal percentage of folks to fill it out over the course of about half a month.
What were you, just out of interest, using SurveyMonkey or Google Docs, or what were you?
Yeah, I was literally just using Google Forms.
Yep,
yeah.
Okay.
So worked fine for me. So, I was asking them questions like, what was the problem you were trying to solve when you came here? What is the biggest self-defense skill, or what's the most important self-defense skill that you really want to learn? What do you like most about our material specifically? Questions like this to try to tease out what are they trying to solve? And also, why do they think we're unique? And some of the big takeaways from that, when I first started the company, Tim, we were focusing on the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu market. So remember, that's the martial art that I train in.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I got the black belt and did the national tournaments and whatnot. So that's where I had my credibility. So this was mostly grapplers and kind of ground fighting folks. And, there were sort of a couple major clusters. There was a lot of people who were really interested in leg locks. So we had a lot of videos on YouTube at the time about how to basically attack an opponent's ankles and how to beat them in a grappling match by attacking their legs and ankles. There were other people that just wanted to learn how to beat bigger opponents. They knew me, Tim. I'm a pretty small guy. I walk around at about 125 pounds. So they saw me, doing all these tournaments with all these competition videos, choking out these really big guys. And they thought, man, beating bigger opponents is really what I'm here.
So on these surveys, Dan, they're responding and giving you insight into their wants and needs and what they're looking for. Are you then taking that information and manually tagging it inside like an Infusionsoft or a Salesforce kind of system?
Actually, we didn't do it that way, but I'll tell you how we did it. So we started with a soft survey where we just said, give me your preferences in words. And then they gave us their preferences in words. And then what I did was I had to cluster those preferences to see what are the biggest groupings of core interest areas. And now, look, there's some risk that you're going to get it wrong. But if you get 130 or 200 people to fill out a survey like we did, you get a pretty decent idea of who the heck is interested in what. And so, I took those ideas. And then what I started doing, Tim, is I would create email opt-ins specific to each one of those. So I created like a free video course about leg locks. I created a free little PDF about how to beat bigger opponents. And it would essentially be like breaking down some specific set of techniques. It was like a 7-page PDF with like some video screenshots and, detailing the most important techniques and strategies that were involved and maybe some articles that were related there too. And make it look nice and professional. And I would create different opt-ins that related to those core needs. So when somebody came in from the leg locks opt-in from my blog, or when someone clicked on the beat bigger opponents opt-in from one of my videos on YouTube, I would then know, okay, this person is tagged with this. So yes, Tim, I did eventually put them through Infusionsoft, but initially just the Google form, there was no tagging with that. It was just an idea clustering. And then from there, I figured out what are the major subgroups I want to appeal to. And then as it turns out, we take all the people who opt in for leg locks, we sell them a leg lock program along with the subscription. All the people that want to beat bigger opponents program along with the subscription, and we have an opportunity to have a higher conversion rate because we know what they're interested in.
If you do, because this all starts again, this goes back to content. You've got to be found. You've got to drive traffic. So
you're right.
You've done a blog post on Science of Skill, for example, and I'm making this up, around leg locks.
Yes.
5 keys to a great leg lock.
You bet.
Never thought I'd say that on this show, but it's been said.
There you go,
There
man.
you go.
Yep.
And at the bottom of that, I'm assuming then there's a call to action, which is like what you hear, want to find more out about more things about leg locks, click here, give us your email address, and you go into some kind of autoresponder system, or do you just direct them directly then to purchase a training product around leg locks?
Yeah, well, a little bit of both. So the thank you page for specific opt-ins would definitely take them to a related product, and that sometimes would be a subscription-oriented offer. But more importantly, yes, you're right. We would put them directly into an autoresponder that would be kind of targeting a leg lock fan with related content and articles. And, maybe sometimes it was only about 12 emails long, and then they would go into the general broadcast list after that. And we just kind of send them, 3-4 emails a week on the broadcast list. But initially, their first 12 emails with us would be tailored content, tailored videos, and then tailored offerings for the subscription that were bundled to the affinity area they were interested in.
You're big on autoresponders.
Yes.
A fundamental success for Science of Skill, a fundamental success kind of criteria, I guess. Tell us about the basic rules of writing a great autoresponder series.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole lot to go into on this, Tim. But I guess if I'm going to be really succinct about it, I've written a bunch of articles about this that I can send you that might be useful references. But the fundamentals are this. One of the most important things you can do is have a good first email. So what do I mean? I'm just going to drive home the points I think are most valuable. I'll move quickly, and you can move me on when you're ready. One of the most important things is having a good first email. So if you get someone to open your first email and to see value in opening future emails, that's like one of the most important things you can do. That might even be more important than in some cases than making a couple dollars on the first email, assuming you blow your trust and you blow the reasoning for them to come back to you. So for a first email, what you want to do in that first email is you want to first thank them and affirm that they've opted in for whatever they opted in for. You want to deliver whatever you promise. So is it a video link? Is it a PDF? Whatever. And then you want to do two things in that first email, Tim. You want to provide a very compelling reason for them to open your next email. And you also want to provide a very compelling reason for them to stay in touch with you long term. So let me give you an exact example. I'll go all the way back to 4 years ago, back when I first talked to you about how we did this in the martial arts world. So in the martial arts world, we'd say something like, hey, this is Coach Dan with Science of Skill. Thanks so much for signing up for our free leg locks course. Here's the video series you requested. You can click and access the course whenever you'd like, and you can stream it on any device. I'm glad to have you with us here in the Science of Skill community. Leg lock techniques are one of the biggest areas of focus that we have on the site, and it's one of the best techniques for defeating larger attackers. In tomorrow's email, I'm going to send you a second video about how to do some specific drilling and skill development exercises to make these leg locks really click into your game and become muscle memory. So you'll want to keep an eye out for that tomorrow morning.
The old hook tactic.
Yeah, one of those. But and then the longer ball game is this. We'll really want to prep them for why do you want to, even if you don't open my next 12 emails, when you see the 15th one floating in there, what is the reason for you to open it? So what's the value prop? And again, I make sure that that's evidently clear. After the leg lock series, again, here at Science of Skill, our focus is sending people the best kinds of techniques to, defeat larger opponents. And we regularly send out short 3 to 4 minute video clips and unique training drills to help you improve your leg lock game, not just with a new move, but with the exact way to implement it into your game to, beat bigger opponents or whatever the case may be. So kind of touching on the value prop, rubbing in the value prop. Now it's been 4 years, but that's the basic gist.
That's great. I mean, I get the idea of the first email. You want to gain trust. You want to give them a reason to open the next, and you want to give them good reason to stay in touch. I imagine one of the things I love spending time on is writing email headlines and split testing them. I imagine you would put a fair effort into the headline, because if you don't get a good headline, that email ain't going to get open, right?
No, all day. You're totally right. For the first emails, interestingly enough, I actually like to keep the headline vanilla, and that's for a couple reasons. So when I say vanilla, what do I mean? I mean, generally, I like to mention like a thanks/confirmation in the brand in actually the subject line. And here's the reason why. You might say, man, that's the most boring thing I've ever heard of. But here's kind of the important thing. They've never seen you in their inbox. So if you have 7 exclamation points, or you have all caps, or you have some cute or quirky little phrase that relates to your personality, and they don't know who the hell you are, you may very well not get opened, or you may very well not be trusted. So what is a brand, if they buy from Macy's or they buy from anybody who's not a joke, what's the first freaking email look like? Well, you should probably look like that so that they want to treat you like a professional company and not like some skeevy internet marketer.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hear what you're saying, and I think it makes sense. So your vanilla email headline is like, "Hey, welcome to Science of Skill. Here's the video." Versus
you're totally correct. Yep. But however, Tim, here's the thing: email number 2, 3, 4 might be a little bit more pizzazz, might be a little bit more personality, might be a little bit more kind of hook. But the first email is very much like, look, we're a professional business. We have a very succinct value prop. I'm delivering exactly what I told you. I'm not coming at you with crazy whiz-bang nonsense on day one. I'm giving you what you expected. Here, now you get to know me, and look out for the future email. So that's the purpose. So I'm with you on split testing subject lines. Generally, email numero uno, I stay pretty vanilla and like exactly what you expected, right? I give them exactly what they expect. Yep.
Let's just, before we leave, autoresponder tactics, Dan, is there an amount? Is there a frequency that kind of is best practice?
It's really, really hard to say depending on the industry here. However, I'll say this, a lot of people are way too shy about this and they do no autoresponders. My opinion on this is, you can easily do, no matter how professional or snooty or fancy your niche is, you can easily do 2 to 3 emails a week for like the first 4 or 5 weeks on an autoresponder, and you're not going to come across as like, oh my God, super unprofessional.
Hallelujah, niches, brother. And can I add to that? Because there's a lot of business owners listening who go, we get enough email already and I don't want to overburden people's inbox and, there's enough information. Yeah. My view is get over it. Your creative challenge is to make sure your emails are helpful, are problem solving, are engaging, make people's lives that infinitely little bit better if they open them, and do it. Because if you don't, your competitor will.
All day long, Tim. I'm going to second your sentiment on that, and I'll actually drive home that point all the more.
It's like a poker game.
By saying I'm gonna up the ante on you. No, I'm gonna drive that point home by saying, in order for us to get to $2 million plus in revenue in the last year that I ran the company, and I think the business now is closing the gap on 3 or 4. Is I was emailing twice a day to almost the whole list. So everybody would get an email in the first half of the day. We would segment them. There's a super duper segmentation strategy that we used. And then the second half of the day, we would pick additional sub segments that we thought were hot or that maybe we haven't hit in a while. And we would rotate additional offers. So we would basically do 1.5 emails a day to basically everybody on the list. And we did that for 1.5 years leading up to the sale of the company for 7 figures. So if sending emails every day is a bad thing, I never got arrested for it.
Wow, man. We're going to talk about the habit of writing emails so you can keep your powder dry on it, but that just feels like a lot of work, which clearly it was. I think you said earlier you're working 80 hours a week, so now I know what you were doing.
But actually by the time I sold Science of Skill, just so you know, one of the reasons I was able to get 90% cash down on the business despite the 7-figure valuation was because my work hours were under 20 every week for like the last month and a half of running the business. So I did get it to a point where that writing, that segmentation was kind of a process. And I had Timothy, I had Marcus, I had Dylan to execute on that process and get it done. So the actual writing was not me. And luckily by the end of it, I was spending 75% of my time on tech emergence.
Whether you are a vet, a plumber, a real estate agent, or you have an e-commerce business, anyone listening, if you haven't got an autoresponder series happening on your website, if you're not capturing emails and other data on your customers, then you are leaving a lot of dough on the table. So I would encourage you to go and have a look at whether it be an Infusionsoft or a Salesforce or something like a MailChimp or an Active Campaign. Go and do it. Dan, the 3 ingredients to an automated email campaign.
Yes.
What are they? We've talked about autoresponders, but specifically
let's do it, man.
Yeah. What are the ingredients?
Perfect. So we've got education. We've got social proof, and we've got calls to action. So I'll give you an idea of what I mean. Education is like value. So this is something like people showed up on your website because they have a problem or an interest, and you want to deliver on that and give them what they came for. Did they come for recipes for healthy food? Did they come for self-defense techniques to beat bigger attackers? Did they come for, small business marketing tips? Whatever the case may be, that's education. And the deeper and more robust your value there, the better. On top of that, though, you have your social proof. This is to say the other people who think that you're awesome and the evidence that what you're doing actually works. Now, normally this is really pretty well embedded into your education, but the goal is that you want to be able to warm folks up to the idea that you know what you're talking about enough for them to buy. So when you're sending some initial blog posts, to your readers, it's great when those initial blog posts can sometimes maybe be success stories of some of your customers or people who, have somehow garnered tremendous benefit from your products or services. So social proof is a big point. Or, if you have any big celebrities or brand names who've had great things to say about you or who've used your products, that's kind of the social proof side. And then calls to action, Tim, are just what you think. Basically telling somebody, go ahead and click this and buy it. Go ahead and click this and set up an appointment. Whatever your call to action is, whether it's a phone appointment or an in-person appointment or whether it's an actual online purchase, that's a call to action.
I always say, Dan, without a call to action, you are simply creating art. And none of us are here to create art. We're all business owners. So what do you want people to do? Tell me, I have just on emails generally, and I send out emails to my list. Anyone who registers at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com gets onto my list. I can't break away from just sending simple text emails with links. Right?
Yep.
But they look like, they look like very personal emails that come directly from me, which is what they are. I avoid fancy newsletters. I avoid graphics. I avoid embedding videos. My emails look very plain. They have a good open rate. They have a low unsubscribe. So I feel like I'm onto something. What's your view?
Yeah. So I'll say that in general, I think that cuts the mustard, especially for a small business. I mean, there's no reason to get schmancy-dancy and have things not show up well on mobile. You want to have, what the biggest thing is, you want to make sure that if you test the readability of your email on any given mobile phone that's on the market, that it's going to read just fine. And one of the easiest ways to do that is just keep it simple, right? It's hard to mess up. Now, Tim, there are markets where people are expecting a certain kind of formatting and professionality, right? If you run, I'll give you an example. If you run, a reasonably substantial, let's say, makeup brand, okay, you're in the fashion space, or let's say you run a firm that is involved in like very, very pricey legal services, you probably don't want it to seem like, hey, it's Jiminy Stevens in your inbox again, right? It's not going to be as personal. You're going to have to meet the expectations and garner the trust in the right way, which may involve formatting in a way that's expected and congenial to what your people want. However, Tim, if you're selling, online training or whatever else, there's a lot of instances, more businesses than people think, where you can very much keep it simple. At Science of Skill, when I sold the company, other than having a Science of Skill header at the top, which was kind of very straightforward with the brand, and other than having kind of a little bit of branding at the footer of the email that made it clear it was coming from the brand, other than that, it was a text email. It read from the top to the bottom. It had some links embedded in it. That was it. Every now and again, we had some images, but for the most part, they were very straightforward text emails with a little bit of succinct company branding to keep it coherent. But that was it.
Yeah. Love it. Now, Dan, moving on, you sent a weekly newsletter that was purely focused on business results like appointments or getting online sales. Again, newsletters, I don't know. When I see the word newsletter, I'm sort of half go to sleep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's you don't have to use that word. It depends on the market in terms of like how well it'll work or not. Like at Tech Emergence, which is my business now, we get something like anywhere between 500 and 700 people a week signing up from organic traffic for what is more or less just advertised as a newsletter, right? It's not that fancy. So there's hang
on, I got to ask. That's a good number. Now you're in the States, so there's more people, but 500 to 700 people signing up a week for your Tech Emergence newsletter. What are you doing besides applying everything you're speaking to us about now? That's a lot.
It is a lot. Well, I'm actually, we haven't even started split testing those opt-ins, and our traffic is going up a lot these days. And so I actually expect that we'll get that to a couple thousand a week within the next, let's say, 4 months. But the main gist is when people land on our site, it's for something really specific. So for Tech Emergence, it is for business insight on the applications of artificial intelligence in pharmaceutical, in banking, in all kinds of niche industries that are obviously very important industries. And there's not that much information about how AI is really making a business difference. And so we make it clear that on the website, it's pretty clear. This is what we do. This is why we're different. In other words, we speak to the C-suite about the power and the opportunity of artificial intelligence without the hype. And, we talk to the biggest names in the industry.
Are you buying traffic, or are you just creating an extraordinary amount of content
100%,
that's
100% SEO? Yeah. So, and it's really hard to build SEO for an executive audience. Again, we attract VPs and directors and C-level executives, but we attract 250,000 page views a month from that crowd, which is obviously enough to sustain a business, especially because we're not, it's not cat pictures and naked ladies here, Tim. It's hardcore business insight about some of the most important IT technology of the next decade. So we make the value proposition of the content very clear, and essentially the ask for the email is pretty bland. It's not like a new fancy white paper or like PDF special 7-tip guide on every single page. I had felt that there's a little bit of a risk for credibility there, and there's also a little bit of a risk of short-termism there. The value prop is, look, you came here for this. You came here for business insight about AI. We deliver that every single week, and we think we're the best at it in the world. And here's where you can learn more. And so if you go to techemergence.com, you'll see just how doggone kind of boring the opt-in is. However, it's very clear that it's coherent to the single powerful, unique differentiator of the site. And so sometimes you don't have to be that aggressive with your ask. I will make sure to emphasize that.
Love that. Dan, writing. Everything we speak about, newsletters, autoresponder emails, broadcast emails, requires writing. The blogs that you're writing to generate the content. What are the habits? You've got any writing habits that you can share with non-writers?
Yeah, well, I got to tell you, I'm not much of a writer either. I mean, I have to do it, and what do? You develop a taste for things that you have to do, right? I mean,
well, either that or you outsource.
Yeah, but I mean, some things you can't outsource. So if you're like a one-man show and you try to outsource your marketing, like, I don't know, you're basically, that's how you fail. You have to handle your marketing. You have to get your hands dirty with the words that get people to pay you money. There's no way around that. And as far as I'm concerned, if you're doing e-commerce and kind of online sales stuff, like some degree of that, you've got to be able to consciously mold yourself. It's like, Tim, I'm not an accountant, but I understand a balance sheet and a P&L really, really well because I'm an adult. And so like you just have to do certain things as an adult, and one of them is learn accounting if you want to run a business. Same thing if you're in a business where marketing is important and content marketing is important. Outsourcing it entirely is extremely dangerous as far as I'm concerned. You have to be able to get your hands dirty. So,
can I just comment on that, Dan? Because I think, again, that puts a pressure on business owners listening. But I also know that a lot of those business owners listening going, oh, gee, more work. Well, start treating marketing of your business more seriously. You're listening to this show after all, so clearly you are. Treat it as an investment, not as your accountant would call it an expense, although that's how it gets treated on the books. That's cool. Tax deduction, we don't mind that. But you have to find some time. I mean, if there were people say, what are the commonalities between all the successful people you interview? And one of them, among a few, is that they view marketing as a hobby, and they don't talk about it in those words, but the way they don't mention the word hobby, but they talk about marketing as if it is a hobby. They find money for it. They find time for it. They can't wait to do it again. And that's a hobby, right?
Well, yeah, I think you should hopefully enjoy it. And I think that a hobby implies fun. And to be honest, Tim, I think in an ideal universe, yes, you would actually find some fun. And I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't have some fun doing marketing strategy with Science of Skill. Now, everybody hits their head against the wall and has hard times. But I think at the end of the day, like the activities that you do that scalably bring in revenue are really fun activities, right? I mean, it's like there's nothing more fun than that. And so marketing is, a really, like you said, I mean, you have to make time. It's like none of us, myself included, have any way of bending time. And so we just have to make it. But the thing about marketing is, the time you spend there, if you spend it right and if you figure it out, is worth way more than the hour it's worth, revenue months and months and months into the future as you build out campaigns and processes that really work. And so, yes, finding the time is critical. And if you want, I can go a little bit into kind of some writing habit stuff.
Love you to do that.
Awesome. So a couple things I really like to do here, Tim. Number one, I like to find companies who are already doing what I want to do and making more than I even want to make. For Science of Skill, I never necessarily wanted it to be as big as Sports Illustrated. I had different goals in Sports Illustrated. I want to work in a different field than that. And so I never wanted to stay with Science of Skill for 20 years and build it to, $1 billion business. I've got handle that goal with another company, which I'm running now. But the goal was look at the people who are doing really, really, really well in terms of their marketing, clearly making a lot of money with marketing in your space. So if you run a fitness gym and the guy with the most profitable tri-state area fitness gym where he's got 20 locations, growing really quickly, clearly a good business, like just making solid, healthy money, go ahead and look at what that guy's landing pages look like. Go ahead and look at what that guy's content marketing looks like. Go ahead and look at what that guy's emails look like. Not because you have to copy them verbatim, but because you want to find 3 or 4 examples of people making 10 times more money than you, and then see if when you start writing, you don't start from scratch, you start from winning. You start from people who are winning. And so when you move your hand on the keyboard, you're sort of in some way drinking in and replicating what success already is. So I took a lot of Sports Illustrated email marketing and kind of landing page strategies and tried to blend them into my business. And I think it helped me kind of imbibe the principles they were using to get people to convert, the kinds of calls to action, the kinds of words, the kinds of descriptive detail that they were including in order to get an email opt-in or get somebody to click to a landing page or talk about a subscription. I use their words, and I think that was very handy. I think in any business, somebody's making 10 times more than you, and if you're going to take the time to write marketing, go ahead and take the time to write about what works.
Great advice. Great advice. Love that. And enjoy it. Sometimes, and writing too, it doesn't mean you have to actively write. You could transcribe. You could,
totally.
There are other ways of doing it. I've had numerous guests who either don't like writing or don't like video or don't like podcasting, but want to share content. So it's about finding the medium that works for you, so that there's less friction between the idea and actually doing it.
Totally.
Yeah. Great, buddy. Well, it looks like we have covered a number of the marketing tactics you very kindly revealed for getting that sale. Are we missing anything?
I'm glad. No, I mean, those are some big ones, man, especially for getting off the ground, Tim. I mean, I think these are really important things to start with. The detail about autoresponders and sort of first email principles and modeling the best, I think those might be some of the most critical for us. So I hope they are for your listeners as well.
No doubt. You have $1 million in your pocket. You've moved to Silicon Valley, wife in hand, as we found out earlier. Yes. I don't imagine $1 million is a whole lot of dough in Silicon Valley. That's probably the cost of a couple of turmeric lattes.
Yeah, a couple slices of avocado toast. Yeah, no, I don't eat that hippie junk, Tim. I'll be honest with you. I eat peanut butter with a sharp knife, and I drink tap water, and that's what I do.
He's a tough guy.
So I find out. I find the ways to aesthetically live in an otherwise non-aesthetic place. But yeah, you're right. Basically, with $1 million in your pocket in Silicon Valley, you're broke.
You're broke. Yeah. Well, I wish you all the luck, Dan, for techemergence.com. Yes. Certainly AI. I mean, we won't talk about it now, but I may well get you back for a third appearance, because I think AI, artificial intelligence, is something that is here. It's not future anymore. It's here. And I think it's also here to the point where it's accessible to small business owners with limited funds and no longer just the big guys with big budgets. So maybe we can have that chat down the track. But in the meantime, people can go and, let's get that subscription to 2,000 emails a week.
That's what I shoot for. Yeah, we do actually have some research on the near-term implications of machine learning and marketing. I'll make sure I zip that along to you. But yes, you're totally right. It is hitting the ground running, and there's some fun stuff for us small business folks to tinker with.
Dan Faggella, thank you, buddy. Well done on the sale of Science of Skill, and all the best for the future.
Cool, Timbo. Thanks, brother.
Well, there you go, team. Past owner of Science of Skill, Dan Faggella, and now owner of Tech Emergence. How'd you go? Motivated to add email marketing to your mix? Or maybe, just maybe, you're now inspired to take what you're already doing with your email marketing up a level or two. If you are successfully using email marketing, email me and tell me. Enter the Small Business Big Marketing Monster Prize Draw. You'll win a prize if I read out your little case study on air. Coming up, thanks to American Express, I share my top 3 attention grabbers from that fireside chat with Dan. Plus, we're going to hear from Australia's nuttiest baker. This is a lot of fun, this very brief chat I have with Tom O'Toole very shortly as he makes his way at 20 kilometres an hour across the middle of Australia in a Model A Ford, a very, very small and old Model A Ford, raising money for cancer research. But right now, attention grabber number 1. I love how Dan looked to Sports Illustrated for inspiration. Now, given they were already nailing their email marketing, why try and reinvent the wheel? So, for your current marketing challenge, whatever that may be, can I suggest you choose a big brand that's doing it really well and copy them? Well, not copy them. That would be plagiarising. But, borrow learnings from what they're doing. Just don't reinvent the wheel every time. Attention grabber number 2. I also love Dan's approach to the first email you send in your autoresponder series. Various things he suggested. Keep your headline fairly vanilla to avoid scaring people off. After all, they're just getting to know you. I'm not sure about that. I don't like vanilla, but I know what he means. I know why he says that. Make it educational, provide social proof of any claims and a strong call to action. And I like this one, a compelling reason for people to open the next email. So I sort of tell them what to expect in the next email. Tease them. Attention grabber number 3. I love how Dan reached out to me for a second interview in order to share his learnings. Now, he had nothing to sell. Sure, he'd love us to go and check out Tech Emergence. Why not? It's a great little thing he's got going there. But he just wanted to pay it forward and make a difference, so much so that he's even created a fantastic blog post detailing exactly how he used the Sports Illustrated email marketing model. Goes into some quite specific step-by-step detail. I'll link to that in the show notes over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/412.
Hello, Tim. Tom O'Toole. I'm in Alice Springs. I'm available if you want to do anything today or this evening or tomorrow. Got a couple interviews tomorrow morning, so, but anyway, see how you go. It won't take us long if you are available. Thanks, Tim. Bye.
Yes, Tom, it's Constable O'Connor from the Northern Territory Police.
Come on. I've already been talking to the superintendent of the whole lot of the Northern Territory Police this morning. He's camped 2 doors down from us.
They're after you. They're actually watching you. He's undercover.
They love to pull up and talk to us because they bloody bored silly, most of them, especially out on the road.
Tommy, where are you? And how are you?
I'm good. I'm in Alice Springs. Now, I can't talk long because I've got to go into the ABC.
Oh, so, hang on. What media personality now are you? Just because you decide to cross the wonderful country of Australia?
Yeah. I don't know whether we're going to make it. Oh.
What has been your greatest test so far?
Oh, the car. The car has been and the correlations. Now, we did a lot of correlations, but the car is vibrating to pieces, but the timing has been our biggest and really knocked our enthusiasm and knocked our confidence around big time is this time. We've had so many people look at it. Anyway, in the end, we got into Alice Springs on the back of a tilt tray truck. It had to be trucked in, and that was a big knock to me, ego and confidence and pride. And I've never had a truck ever. But we got it to a man here, Russ Driver, and he's a guy around my age, old fella, and he instantly started to work on it, and he found a problem within 4 minutes probably. Then he had to work on it for the next couple of hours. It was the timing, it was shorting out.
I love it when someone's I love it when someone's surname reflects what they do in business. Russ Driver, the mechanic. I love it.
Yeah.
You say your enthusiasm and your confidence has taken a hit, Tommy. I'm assuming you're speaking for your partner in crime, Keith, as well. How's that partnership going?
Oh, Keith. Oh, it's great. Keith and I have been mates since we were 16. But, yeah, look, we sit shoulder to shoulder in that little car. But, yeah, we were both in the doldrums a fair bit. You know, we broke down out in the middle of nowhere. And this guy come along, Peter, and picked us up and took us to a station and left his wife and his son on the side of the road for 2 hours in the flies and 40 degrees heat with hardly any shade. So I didn't realise he had no room in the car, and he was insistent that he took us to a station, didn't want to leave us on the side of the road.
He's happy to leave his wife and kid on the side of the road, but, boy, you've got to get Tom and Keith out of there, son.
But Keith...
Tell us about the lowest point you've hit. Thank you. And, yeah, I know. And what did you do to get out of it?
Well, look, we were travelling. We didn't realise we'd be travelling in the outback through Birdsville, Windora. Well, I'll tell you what, we hit Windora from the Birdsville's about 300 kilometres or something like that, 400 kilometres, but mainly all gravel and rough. But they had rain and had washouts. So we'd seen the police. There was no one around. Windora, we had needed fuel. It was Easter Thursday. No, everything was shut, and next day it was all shut. But anyways, the policeman loved to talk to us, and he said, it's only open to four-wheel drive, high clearance. He said, but you'll be right. Well, God almighty. We were out there. We got bogs, and we've seen maybe one car for the whole day on Good Friday, and that's how we've seen only two. So that's been really low, because I thought if we break down, I'm responsible for Keith.
I don't know whether you are sleep deprived, you're avoiding my question, or Keith has actually found himself into an early grave. You've buried him somewhere on the side of the road. Tell us about, this is a story about humans. You are travelling to raise money for humans suffering from cancer in regional Australia. You and Keith, you might have been mates from 16 years old, but I am, and I'm sure others are interested in that moment in the middle of the outback where maybe you've looked each other in the eye and either said, Keith, I love you, or I'm going to kill you.
Oh, gee, I tell you what, we have had that in the past, but not so, mainly out there in the desert. There's no trees, nothing. So we try to break down near a tree, and we know that, gee, this is bad. So we get it going again for another 5 kilometres or so, and then conk out again, try to get to a tree. And some of the trees are very hard. But also, before that, we broke down with 2 TV cameras in Bathurst. We did the starter motor. Well, we thought the motor had blown up, so we had to push start it.
It was probably the points.
Yeah, other people helped us. And no, that wasn't the point. This is a starter motor this time. And we pushed started to Gunner Windy, got to Byron Bay, pushed starting it. Oh, we have a crank handle, but it's too hard to crank in the morning. And anyway, so we pushed started to Gunner Windy, and then we got a starter motor put in.
Tommy,
got it sent up from Melbourne. Oh.
You have become a mechanic.
And then we did a few tyres. Luckily, we're good on the tyre levers because there's no one out there to fix it.
Tom, what have you learnt about yourself?
Oh, I tell you what, you need that perseverance. You've got to have that confidence. And boy, after about, and I'm not joking, after about 50 times of trying to get these points working, 50 times lifting that bonnet. The bonnet's easy to lift up. 50 times giving it another go, and just not giving up. And in the end, we had to say, look, we can't do this. And so we had to ring for help. And that was hard enough, ringing. And that really knocked us around. Took me a day to get over that a bit. But we got in here. And
what do you mean, ringing for help? Took you a day to get over? Do you mean it took you a day to get over?
Oh, it took me a day to, well, we were just so dehydrated. We were drinking litres of water, but we're in 40 degrees heat. There's no doors in this
mate,
thing.
You drink beer out there. Tom, you drink beer, mate. You know that. Once you're in the Northern Territory, the water is beer. Goodness me, mate.
I'm silly enough. I don't drink, and my mate can't. He's hopeless. He's legless. But look, it's been hot, and the flies have been horrific. So they've kept the nutrition up because you eat a lot of it. And It is.
I reckon the flies, Tom, would be the great. If I was doing it, flies would be the greatest test. I mean, I reckon Australia would be the luckiest country without flies. Buddy, I wish you all the best. I've been watching tomotool.com.au. There's some wonderful photos on there. Your Facebook page is fantastic. It's an incredible journey. How much money have you raised so far?
Well, I'm not sure. We'll be finding out today. I know over $30,000. So far, but we're going for 100,000. So we need people to donate to east2west.com.au.
Tommy, it's great, mate. I can't wait to speak to you. You're going to be in Shark Bay. Well, when do you think you'll be in Shark Bay, Western Australia?
Oh, about the 17th. I want to be there. But look, we've got 1,100 kilometres of dirt and corrugation to get over to Western Australia to Leonora, and we'll be heading off on tomorrow out to Uluru, and then
Brilliant.
To the Olgas, and then 1,100 kilometres of isolation, dirt, desert, and rough corrugation, washouts. There's been a bit of rain all the way around up here. The desert is green in lots of parts.
It would be. Well, the photos you are showing are just, I mean, it is such a beautiful looking country, that red ochre, that rich blue sky, the wonderful green of the desert flora. I mean, it's incredible, mate. And the wonderful red and yellow of the Beechworth Bakery truck. Tommy, I love your work, mate. If in the middle of all this you need someone to talk to because you have your fist hovering over young Keith, then give me a buzz. I'm here for you, brother.
Right, thank you. See you later.
See you, Tommy.
Bye.
Holy dooly. I told you that was going to be a big show, but you didn't believe me. Good on Tommy O'Toole for doing what he's doing. I think it's fantastic. Sort of had to keep him focused then, didn't I? I think we got there. Geez, we cover some serious marketing ground in this show. Way back, we caught up with Eagle Boys Pizza founder Tom Potter, who had some great tips on pricing and guerrilla marketing. And speaking of guerrilla marketing, we also caught up a few years ago with Messages on Hold founder Kim Illman, who is the absolute king of guerrilla marketing. I love that topic, and I encourage you to go and listen to both those episodes, plus hundreds more, over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com, or you can subscribe free on your favourite podcast app, which means that you'll never miss another episode. Hey, I'd love to hear from you. Hit the contact button over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com, where you can email me, you can connect with me on social media. You can even grab a signed copy of my book, The Boomerang Effect. Big thanks to American Express. Love you guys. Thank you so much for making this and last week's episode and the next few episodes exclusively really just for you. So we've only got, less ads to run. I love that. I know you love that. If you love the idea of your business expenses rewarding you, then check out Amex Business. Just Google that and you'll find some really good information. Speaking of love, if you love the Small Business Big Marketing Show, then let another business owner know about it by grabbing their phone and downloading it for them. Show them how podcasting works. I was going to say the brave new world of podcasting. Hardly brave. It's been around for a decade now, if not longer. This show's 9 years old. Why isn't every small business owner in Australia listening? I don't know. Until next week, I'm Timbo Reid. Always have been, always will be. Thanks for tuning in. May your marketing be the best marketing. Bye for now.